Due to the graphic nature of this program, viewer discretion is advised.
Welcome to the Marco Dure Show, everybody. It is Monday, August 4th. Thank you for starting the week off right by tuning into today's program. That will give you all the groundbreaking news across our country, across the world, where the facts are facts and hard truths thrive. Please be sure to like, follow, and share the show with others to get this information out. I always appreciate when you guys do that. I really do appreciate that. Now let's get ready for the best hour that radio has to offer. Uncensored and ready to go. Let's start off today's show. I want to ask you all a question today. It's almost like a Monologue Monday type thing. Where are all the men of the West today? You know, I ask myself this all the time. I say, where are the men of the West today? What do I mean by that? Where are the men that will stand up to what we are seeing in our country, across the globe? Where are the men of the West that let our nation be inundated with illegal aliens left and right? Where are the men of the West that stand up for their daughters to play sports, not with other boys, but to compete against other women? Where are the men of the West that would stand up when their children are being taught in our public schools things like critical race theory? That because if you're white, you must feel guilty. Or if you're from another race, you must feel inferior. Where are the men that will stand up to this nonsense? Or the sexualization of your children in public schools today? Or the nonsense leftist social justice garbage they're being thwarted with every day, in and out? No, they're not learning how to do arithmetic and math and to compute, to read and write. They're being taught ideology, communist ideology. And of course, the push always is for more praise to girls than it is to boys, leaving their sons, well, left out in the dark. Where are the men that raise their sons, their daughters? Where are they when we see these roaming gangs of teens, we'll call them? Youths is what the news media usually refers to them as. I saw this over the weekend. Coming into a convenience store in Los Angeles, ransacking the place. All young men. Could be more than, 15, 16, just a whole swath of them coming in, ransacking a store, taking as much as they want and leaving. Where are the fathers of these young men? I ask. Nowhere. Nowhere to be seen. Where is the leadership in this country? We've lost our way. What father, by the way, would allow their children to mutilely castrate themselves? Or chop this off, or add this to the, and then go with the facade that they can change whatever sex they are. Where are the men of America today? Where are the men of America in the West? That when they see their women being attacked in the streets, they do nothing. Look no further than Cincinnati. Where is the uproar from the men of this country? Where are they? What you saw in that was disgusting. You saw more people with their cell phones out cheering it on than trying to break it up. And you saw a middle-aged woman getting punched right in the face, knocking her out, who's still suffering from brain trauma today. Where's the outrage by what's happening in our major cities? We're not seeing any of it. Where are the men today, I ask you? And when is it time to stand up for what is right in this country? Respecting the Constitution, respecting the rule of law, getting education back to where it should have been, to promote Americanism, to again teach at an appropriate level math, reading, writing, logic, computation, all these skills. They don't learn any of it anymore. And of course, they dumb down the standards so everyone can get an A+, of course. That's where we find ourselves. It's just a factory machine. Taking your money, well, they pretend to put more money into it, and you get less and less and less out. Functionally illiterate children, in many regards. This is not the work of a nation that wants to survive, folks. I want to tell you that. Because again, if we don't reverse course, we're in trouble. We're in trouble. And we need to make sure we change this. I was looking at an article, or a post, I should say, and it said in 1960, a number of people aged 30 years of age, right? You're a family, you're both 30 years old, and you own a house. That percentage was 52% of 30-year-olds were married by the time they were 30 and had a house. That means they owned the house. 52% in 1960. Guess what it is today in 2025? Guess who's 30, married, and have a house? 12%. 12%. Do you see the American dream slipping away? Do you see morality slipping away? So I ask you, where are the men today? Where are the men today? They let their daughters act the way they do in many regards. They want to be boss babes, right? That's what we keep hearing all the time. Oh, it's good. Go travel, do this. Where is the push for family, for children, to respect your husband? Where is all these values? They're nowhere. They're gone. And I want to sum all this up by asking you, while you're thinking about all these things that I'm discussing right now, is it time that we have a counter-revolution to the 1960s revolution that totally destroyed the fabric of this nation in 1960s? Is it time that we revert course from this? I think we all can think that, back in the 1950s and the 60s, before this nonsense took place, the country was in a much better place. Not perfect. I don't think it was. But it was in a much better place than what it is today. When are we going to get away from where we are right now? We're at a watershed moment right now. Either we decide if we're going to be Christian and capitalist, or communist and broke and unemployed, an atheist. What are we going to choose? When are we going to stand up for what is right in this country? We need to start raising young Americans again in this nation. The proper roles to both females and males need to be applied yet again. There needs to be honor among the family. And we're not seeing anything like this anymore. So it's a sad thing to see your nation stripped apart. By design, by the way. That whole movement was done by design. The women's lib movement, the sexual revolution, the civil rights revolution that took place. All those different little movements that took place in the 1960s. The anti-war movement that took place. The hippie movement that took place. All these movements were done by design, and they were facilitated by people with money. Most of you don't understand that. All done by design. All done by design, folks. And look where we are today. 60 years later. Look where we are today. Look where this nation went. Absolutely appalling to me. Now, I saw this over the weekend in the Wall Street Journal. I always want to read from the Wall Street Journal because I don't know how much longer it's going to be out there. I have to tell you, if Trump actually successfully sues Rupert Murdoch and News Corp and the Wall Street Journal, among others, Fox News, I don't know how much longer these publications are going to be out. So I try to get articles from them as best I can. And here's what it said over the weekend. It said, unemployed Americans endure longer job searches in a cooling market. Now, the stock market is up, which is a good thing. Inflation is cooling, which is a good thing. Not where it should be, but it's cooling as compared to the Biden administration. But think about this. The number of people unemployed for at least 27 weeks tops 1.8 million people in America. Think about that for a second. Does that give off the vibe that our economy is booming right now? We have 1.8 million people that are looking for jobs that can't find jobs in this country. Think about that for a second. Think about that. Now, not since the COVID pandemic have we seen unemployment to such a level. In fact, it hasn't been this high since 2017, the article goes on to say. Yeah, the median length of unemployment in the U.S. has ticked up adjusted from 9.5 weeks in July of 2024 to 10.2 weeks last month. I mean, this is, not good stuff. The unemployment rate, 4.2%, remains low by historical standards. But companies are not hiring as much. Because, again, I've said this, I'll say it every single day on this show. When you don't know where the economy is going, when we see things like the tariffs that keep coming out, and we don't know what's going to happen. We don't know if Russia's going to have a 100% tariff, or if they're going to stop trading with us, or if China's going to follow suit and do the exact same damn thing, or if India's going to have a 25% tariff or a 35% tariff. We don't know. So companies are reluctant to do something. Now, while it looks like the interest rates will be coming down soon, and that will again grow the economy, that's why Donald Trump is favoring it, by the way, I ask myself, we need some stability in these tariffs. We can't have Donald Trump waking up every day deciding what tariff he's going to put on, what tariff he's going to take off, when's it going to happen, then he decides it's going to change. We can't have this. There needs to be some sort of stability. The article goes on to say that there's certain people, and they're interviewing this one woman, said she applied for 900 jobs since being laid off last September. Yep. Guess what? She landed one interview since then. We need to get our country moving again. We need to get our country moving again, folks. And it's not in the position it needs to be economically. I'll just say that much to you. We need to bring back the manufacturing jobs. That's what we need to bring back. That will boom the economy beyond anything you could imagine. Because right now it's not good for many Americans right now. Some, yes, of course. Things are going in the right direction. I won't deny that. But we're not where we need to be right now. We need to get these numbers up. We need to get our labor force participation rate up. That's got to rise. And what else does this say to young Americans? I ask you. We talked about how, most people by the age of 30, at least half in 1960, were married and had a house. Today, that's 12%. What does that tell people when they leave college at 22, 23, with a pile of debt latched onto them already? Tens of thousands, if not more, nowadays. What does that tell them? There is no American dream. All of a sudden, that stupid Mom Donnie starts sounding a lot better, doesn't he? This is how this is working. We need to get the American dream back to the American people, folks. That's what it has to be. We can't be a nation of no borders, no assimilation, no loyalty. We've got to get America first back on track. Stop spending time in these senseless overseas wars, spending billions upon billions of dollars. That's not helping us. That's hurting us. Because that in itself will raise the inflation rate. Because the Fed continues to print out money. So what's my answer in response to all this? America first means we work on America. We bring back the manufacturing. We bring back manufacturing, and then all the other markets will respond in kind. That's what we need to see. Stop outsourcing our jobs to other nations. We don't need it. We can do it right here in America. And much better, by the way, I have to tell you. I want to move on to this next article by Paul Craig Roberts, a fantastic economist, worked in the Reagan administration. I greatly admire his work, and I believe he speaks truthfully. That's why I usually will try to throw an article of his in there. You can check out all of his other articles at paulcraigroberts.org. He begins this article today by saying, yes, I was wrong to hope that President Trump would normalize relations with Russia. You know, we all thought he was, by the way. I thought he was. You thought he was. We voted for him because he ran as a peace candidate. But perhaps Trump intended to do so until the men in black knocked on his door and told him he was not allowed to take away the enemy that justified the power and profit of the military security complex. In the era of nuclear weapons, it makes perfect sense to be on good terms with other nuclear powers, correct? Mutual suspicions and high tensions can result in catastrophic consequences. Russia has not heightened us and threatened us in any way to be on alert, and clearly has no territorial ambitions. Putin's ambition is a mutual security agreement with the West. But for some reason, Trump won't consider it. I don't know why. And again, where is Marco Rubio? Where is he? Why haven't we seen this little putz recently? Usually he's making his way on the airwaves, this and that. Where is he? He should be the one sitting down, working for peace with Ukraine and Russia and in the Middle East. Where is he? I haven't heard a damn thing about him lately. Now, Friday, I talked to you about the position that Donald Trump took regarding a tweet that former President and Prime Minister Dmitry Medvedev made. And I've got to go back to this because you guys have no idea how close we were to actually getting involved in a hot war with Russia. And that could still happen. Do I think it's going to happen? Do I think it's likely? I don't think so. But the motions are set place if we make more catastrophic decisions, like what we saw with Donald Trump. Again, how close is Trump into bringing us into a hot war with Russia? On Friday, he said he deployed. We know that 2 of these Ohio-class submarines are already deployed in the Atlantic Ocean. Both have launch ballistic missile capabilities containing Trident thermonuclear warheads on them. And he said that they're not going to be placed in appropriate locations. Again, meaning that they can strike Russia. So now the Kremlin itself has to say, listen, we're going to be searching now for these 2 Ohio-class submarines moving, because normally they're just sitting in one place at the bottom of the ocean. Now, the question you should ask yourself is, why would he give such a provocative order? Why would he do this? Now, he did this in response to a tweet from Dmitry Medvedev. Now, what did the tweet say? This is important to understand what's going on here. He said that Trump's playing the ultimatum game with Russia. This is in a tweet. You can all look it up. 50 days or 10. He should remember 2 things. Russia isn't Israel or even Iran. Each new ultimatum is a threat and a step towards war. Not between Russia and Ukraine, but with his own country. Don't go down the Sleepy Joe road. Now, is that a provocative statement? Of course it is. Yes, it is. Now, was he threatening any physical harm to the United States? No, he wasn't. But then we get this. We get this from Donald Trump 2 days later, on Friday, when I first read this to you. Donald Trump said on Truth Social, based on the highly provocative statements from the former president of Russia, Dmitry Medvedev, who is now the deputy chairman of the Security Council of the Russian Federation, I have ordered 2 nuclear submarines to be positioned in the appropriate regions, just in case these foolish and inflammatory statements are more than just that. Words are very important and can often lead to unintended consequences. I hope this will not be one of those instances. Thank you for your attention on this matter. So now you have Donald Trump telling the Russians he's moving 2 Ohio-class submarines with nuclear capacity on them to be in a position where they can target and hit Russia. Now, don't you think that the Kremlin is going to say, hey, we need to figure out where these submarines are should they come close to a position where they can reach us? That's what they're probably saying, I would imagine, and now they're going to be on the lookout for these submarines. So now, just so we understand, folks, there are 2 Ohio-class submarines in each ocean. We have the Pacific, of course, and the 2 in the Atlantic. We have 14 total, though not all are in use at the same time, of course. So we don't know if he's positioned 2 more to go into a region that can hit Russia. We don't know if the 2 in the Atlantic are moving to this position. We don't know. We simply don't know. This is a tweet. This is all we have here. He says, I've ordered 2 nuclear submarines to be positioned. I didn't say if there's new ones, if they're old ones. We have no idea. So now we have the Russians, of course, the use of the dead man hand, or the dead hand, I should say. Now, this is a system that can launch any type of mutually assured destruction by retaliating a nuclear strike, if there ever was one, on Russia. If the leadership is, say, inept, or if they're incapacitated, or if they're dead, or what have you, this system will take effect. I want you to think back to Dr. Strangelove. Anyone that's seen that movie by Stanley Kubrick. Right? They have the Russian ambassador come in, right? And he says, oh my God, they've released the doomsday device because they thought we were going to strike them. Right? And they go on about this doomsday device. This is going to happen. This will, create this cloud of whatever it was all across the world and we'll be dead. Right? The doomsday device. This just speaks similar sentiments to me, really. But by Trump announcing, as he did on Friday, of this deployment or redeployment, we don't know, of these Ohio-class subs, he puts each of them at risk now because now they're going to be searching for them. All of them at risk, all the sailors on these submarines at risk. Now, who's advising Donald Trump on all this? Does he get advice from anybody? Does he talk to anybody about these tweets before he puts them out there? We could look at Pete Hegseth, the Secretary of Defense, who actually retweeted this by Donald Trump. I guess to, I don't know why. Show his allegiance to Donald Trump. I have no idea. J.D. Vance, where's he on this issue? How about Raising Cain, the head of the Joint Chiefs? Where's he? Is it Lindsey Graham, for God's sakes, who would love nothing more than a war with Russia? Where's Tulsi Gabbard? Nobody knows. Nobody knows who's advising the president right now. Nobody knows. Nobody seems to care. Now, Putin did respond to Trump's Truth Social post, saying the following. He said, all disappointments arise from excessive expectations in order to have a peaceful resolution. It is necessary to have substantive conversations and not in public. So what he's saying here is we need to have negotiations. We need to have peace. He didn't say anything provocative there. He said something that made complete sense. Cooling the situation. Not letting our feelings get out of hand here over a tweet. That's what it seems to be happen. So what next? Does this go away? Does Trump have to attack? What are we doing now? Nobody knows. Nobody seems to care. But don't make no mistake about it. The Russians are on alert right now. If they feel that a nuclear submarine by the United States is in a position that it can attack in mainland Russia. Make no mistake about it. Now, just last month, and this is why this is so outrageous. Just last month in July, Donald Trump said that he wanted to renew the New START Treaty, which is a nuclear reduction or arms reduction treaty between both nations. Now, this is the right step to take, but it expires next February in 2026. But now, how is Putin going to come to the table and say, look, you literally just threatened us with nuclear arms. Just all of a sudden, how can they expect Donald Trump to keep his word on this now? Will he keep his word on this? We were supposed to be talking peace between Ukraine and Russia. Now we're starting our own type of involvement with this nation. And I don't know how this goes. Does it work? Does it last? Nobody knows. Nobody knows. This makes the ending of the Ukraine war, I guess, more difficult, I would have to say now, because Donald Trump has to deal with Russia. You can't send the little putz Zelensky out there to do anything. And now, of course, Putin sees the United States selling arms to NATO, which has expanded eastward, even though it should never have done that. to give more arms to Ukraine that we're supplying. It makes no sense whatsoever. If you were seeking peace, ladies and gentlemen, why on earth would you make those statements? And again, why would you continue to arm the nation that Russia is at war with if you're looking for peace? That doesn't make any sense. Where are the talks? Where are the peace talks? Apparently nowhere. Take a listen to this clip.
I'm not so interested in talking anymore. He talks, we have such nice conversations, such respectful and nice conversations, and then people die the following night with a missile going into a town and hitting, recently, I guess, the nursing home, but they hit other things. Whatever they hit, people die. So, Adam.
Okay. He says, I'm done talking. He's done talking. What does that even mean? If you're done talking, if you're done negotiating, where does that leave us? Does that mean we're just in it for the long haul in this Ukraine conflict, where we have 400,000 Ukrainian soldiers now defecting from the military? What does that say about the progress of this war that we've spent $350 billion on? Where does this leave us? And I hate to tell it to you like this, but this is the truth. It seems like Putin is more interested in peace than Donald Trump. Trump is not negotiating. He's just delivering these ultimatums with these punishments based on these tariffs now attached with for non-compliance to bowing down to what he wants. Never even during the Cold War did an American president issue an ultimatum to a Soviet leader. And he says he doesn't want to talk. So again, who is Putin supposed to comply with? Plucker Roberts goes on to talk about this exact instance, saying Trump hasn't told us or Putin who he, again, wants, to do this deal with. And it seems like Trump intends for Putin to make a deal with Zelensky, the de facto president of Ukraine right now, to end this conflict. How's he going to do that, folks? Zelensky's already said that his terms for Russia are to give back both the whole entire Donbass region, which is the eastern portion of Ukraine, Crimea, where the Russian fleet is, good luck with that, and pay war reparations. Do you think that Putin is going to agree to any of this? They've won the war. The winner of the war makes the new proclamation for how things proceed next. That's the way it always works. What needs to happen, first of all, Ukraine needs to have elections again and elect a leader. They don't have one. Zelensky is nothing more than a puppet. He has no authority to negotiate for Ukraine. And Zelensky is merely the proxy that Washington wants in this war with Russia. What do I mean by that? Well, back in the first Trump presidency, most of you maybe don't know this, the CIA was in Ukraine training Ukrainian soldiers for war with Russia. Now, I'm sure if I know this, Putin absolutely knows this. Lavrov knows this. Medvedev knows. They all know this. So we say, it's not Trump's war. Absolutely it is Trump's war. Now, it didn't happen under Trump, but he certainly put the pieces in motion. Why are we training troops in Ukraine to go to war with Russia? Why do we have CIA operatives in Ukraine right now? Look at the arms we've given them. Now, instead, Trump issues these meaningless ultimatums. That shows that he's not sincere about ending this war, folks. I mean, it's just the way it is. This is where we are. Well over 6 months now of this conflict that's getting more and more out of hand. That should have been over a month after it started. These ultimatums are not a way to normalize relations. So that's why I asked you before, where is Marco Rubio? Where is he? Why has Trump not sat down with Putin? Actually sat down with him and said, what can we do to end this war? What can we do to bring peace to this region between both nations? Why has this not happened? We never hear about this. We hear about the ultimatum. We don't know what has been done to get this situation solved. And again, it's reckless to issue threats to Russia in such a tense atmosphere. But here we go. Now we're seeing, Germany, talking about hitting Moscow now. I mean, with this new President Mertz, it's getting out of hand quick, folks. And it's not a good situation. What happened on Friday was completely reckless. And it puts not only the Ohio-class submarines that were in the region at risk of being damaged or destroyed or, threatening the lives of the sailors on these submarines, but it also puts a threat to us should we get into a hot conflict with another nuclear power. This is a dangerous situation that needs to be urgently resolved. Yes, the conflict with Ukraine needs to end, absolutely. But we need to sit down with President Putin. They need to sit down, not talk on the phone. They need to sit down and come to an agreement, a treaty, an armistice, if you will, on ending this war. So that way these relations can cool and we can proceed normally. That's the way it needs to go. You know, I told you before, I'm for peace. I'm not for these endless wars that we somehow always seem to find the money for. Shocking, of course. We need to stop this. This is senseless. You have over 1 million Ukrainians dead as a result of this, just in the military. No, this is not the way that this war should be going, folks. It seems to be getting worse as time goes on. We see Ukraine now. This is in Breitbart. I'll go on to this now. Ukrainian drone strikes spark massive fire at Russian oil depot. So now wait, this is going to end anytime soon? Now that they're destroying the refineries in Russia? Again, this is not deterring Russia, folks. This is not deterring Russia. They still have high recruitment for this war, by the way. The Russian army does. And again, I don't think if you're seeing a, demoralized Russia, that you're not going to have this group of people that keep coming up to, again, enlist in this war. Just what we're being told is the exact opposite. Yeah, things are getting out of control, and they continue on and on and on. Not a good thing, folks. Not where I thought we would be. I thought Trump was going to be pushing for peace. I thought we would have this conflict over by now. And instead we see this just escalating day by day. Now possibly bringing us into this conflict. And I said this before too. I said if Ukraine has any chance in hell, another nation's got to get involved in this war. They cannot defeat Russia. And they will not defeat Russia on their own. So I pray that there's nothing further with this, that this cools, there's no more provocations on this, but only time will tell, of course. The New York Post has an article saying tens of thousands of Israelis are now calling for an end to the war after Hamas video shows emaciated captives. I'm sure many of you saw this as well. But there's tens of thousands of Israelis that are now in the streets of Tel Aviv on Sunday to call for an end to this war and for freedom for these hostages in Gaza after Hamas aired propaganda videos showing emaciated captives. Chants of "Stop the War" and "Leave No One Behind" filled the city's hostage square after attendees watched a broadcast of the latest terrorist video featuring skeletal Israeli hostage, I believe it's Ayatar David, I believe is how you say his name, holding a shovel inside a dark tunnel saying he was digging his own grave. Now, it's disgraceful this is happening, as I've said many, many times before. This video just came days after Hamas released images of Nova Festival survivor Ram Bravslavsky appearing thin, limp, and crying, with the hostage so emaciated that his family didn't even recognize him when they saw him in this footage. I mean, this is horrible stuff. Absolutely horrible stuff. They're showing, before and after pictures. I mean, they look like skeletons almost. Now they're speaking directly to Netanyahu, who, by the way, could have had all these hostages back. All these hostages back. Hamas said this in the beginning, folks. I know you haven't heard this on the mainstream press. He could have had all the hostages back right after October 7th, 2023. And Hamas said to him, "We will release all these hostages if you do not invade Gaza." Well, we know how that turned out, don't we? So naturally, there are still hostages in Gaza. Estimated to be, I believe, 50. They believe that only 20 of them are still living, sadly enough. But they're saying to Netanyahu, I address you, Prime Minister, enough. The phased approach to deals has failed. Make the decision already. End the war and bring everybody here. So the father of Ram Bravlovsky has stated here. I mean, this is horrible. This is absolutely disgraceful. This is happening. But one thing I want to share with you, most of you may not know this either. The IDF has 12,000 Palestinian hostages. So why not use that as leverage and say, look, if you release our remaining hostages to us, we'll release all 12,000 Palestinian hostages that we have. Why not do something along those lines to stop this nonsense? To stop this from happening. And again, save these people. What is Netanyahu doing? They're supposed to be in a ceasefire right now. It was last I heard, but yet they're still bombing northern Gaza. The father went on to say the hostages, the fallen soldiers, the fighters, the reservists, and those displaced from their homes, we want to rehabilitate, to return to life, to breathe, is what he said. Let me focus on that. Horrible. Horrible. And again, there's displays in the streets of, Netanyahu. People are dressing up as him, showing, these dead hostages. I mean, there's these demonstrations happening. They're not happy with Netanyahu. I told you before, he's in, grave danger. He's only got about a 15% approval rating. But he's using these people as leverage. I hate to say it. He can get these hostages back. He's already destroyed all of Gaza. He hasn't defeated Hamas, but he's just destroyed all of Gaza. He has. I mean, it's in ruins right now. And it says here, the Hostages and Missing Families Forum said that the conditions of the two hostages that were filmed, featured in the Hamas video, were further evidence that the war in Gaza needs to conclude immediately to get the captives the help that they need. I mean, this is horrible. I can't even imagine being held for a day in these situations, let alone the almost 2 years now they've been in Hamas's possession. I mean, absolutely horrifying, these living conditions. Absolutely horrible. Netanyahu has the chance to bring them back. He can negotiate this. He's not stupid. But he doesn't want to give up the territory. That's what it comes down to. That's more important to him, I believe, than the release of the hostages. Because again, I told you before, they came to him and said, we will release all of them. He could have had them all back, so long as he didn't invade Gaza. But he wants Gaza, folks. He wants the Greater Israel Project. You can look it up. Just a few weeks before this whole awful incident took place on October 7th, 2023, which I myself and many others, anyone that I know, condemned. It's horrific. Could have had all these hostages, all 251 of them back. But he wants Greater Israel. He wants this territory. He wants the Gaza Strip. He wants Syria. He wants Lebanon. He wants Jordan. He wants part of Saudi Arabia. And of course, he wants Iran completely gone, with a regime change at the very least. He wants all this. But again, that's why he's staying in position. He knows he's a wartime president. He stays in office. That's what it comes down to. So that's my take on this. I want to see these hostages come back. But there's got to be something on both sides here to get these people back. And again, why are they holding 12,000 Palestinian hostages? I don't understand that either. I don't want either side to have hostages. I don't want to see any of this conflict happening. But we find time and time again, this is what's happening. 12,000, again, held without any charge. held without any charge. They've actually had Knesset meetings where they talk about, is it fine to rape some of these Palestinian hostages? I mean, this is ridiculous. This is ridiculous. It's ridiculous that we're getting this video footage. What Hamas is doing to these hostages, starving them, it seems like. And it's also ridiculous that Netanyahu is not allowing food in the region, water in the region, electricity. This insane bombing campaign that's going on and on and on. I want peace. That's what I stand for, folks. I don't want war. I don't want conflict. I don't want to see innocent people dead. Or innocent people digging their own grave when we can get them back. And if it's good enough for the people in Israel to stand for these hostages and say, end this conflict, get these people back, that's good enough for me. That's my position. That's what I want. And stop this damn starvation inside Gaza, because that's exactly what's happening as well. That nobody seems to want to talk about it, or they want to deny it, of course. They want to deny it. They don't want to be complicit in it. But that's what's happening. That's what's happening. I mean, anyone that looks can see it. There's no reason for it, folks. There's no reason for it at all. And good on the people that are standing up in Israel for peace. I'm very happy to see this. Oh my goodness, folks! Look at the world we live in. Look at the bloodshed. Look at what's happening in Ukraine. Look what's happening inside Gaza. Look what's happening inside Syria right now. Inside Lebanon. Look how awful this is. This is horrible. Absolutely horrible. You know, we talk about what's happening a lot on the on the foreign front, but look what's happening inside our own country right now. Look at this. Look at this. This is in the Washington Examiner. It says voters say Obama broke the law with Russiagate, must be prosecuted. Finally, some sense making its way into the American psyche. I like this. It says here, a majority of voters believe that former President Obama's national security team schemed, and they did on his behalf, by the way, and lied in pushing the false Russiagate scandal to undermine the legitimacy in the election of Donald Trump's presidency, and now want them to be prosecuted for it. In his latest Rasmussen poll, survey shared with Secrets, 54% of likely voters said it is likely that the Team Obama committed a serious crime in manipulating intelligence. Only 41% of respondents disagreed. I mean, any way you look at this is all on Obama. It's all on Obama. Obama initiated this. This is what he wanted. It got even worse, though. And even more respondents, 69%, demanded that there be held anyone who's involved in this, that think John Brennan, James Clapper, James Comey. Who was the other one? Oh, Hillary Clinton. We can't forget her. Can't forget her at all. Be held accountable. Now, I've said to you time and time again, I don't think you're going to see that. Even though this is being brought to light, that would be the appropriate response for a high crime such as treason, which is exactly what this was. Asserting that Russia was involved in our election to scheme with the Trump campaign to rig the election. You had Hillary Clinton literally paying for fake dossiers to smear Donald Trump, to stigmatize him during his first half of his administration. We saw it on the news time and time again. The man couldn't go to sleep without this being waved on the airwaves. Then you have your other little henchman, Adam Schiff, coming in there. Again, what do we find? That there was no collusion, of course. You had Maxine Waters, same thing. He's colluding with Russia. Nothing of the sort. Nothing of the sort. Now we have to decide, what is the Trump DOJ going to do? Are they going to actually prosecute Barack Obama, James Clapper, James Comey, John Brennan, and Hillary Clinton? Or are they going to walk? I think you're going to see them walk. That's my take on this. I don't think you're going to see the takedown of these 5 people. I cannot see it happening. I cannot see this. I mean, they almost want to let Ghislaine Maxwell walk, for God's sakes. We all know how evil she is. Now, this is nefarious as well, but I think you're going to see them walk. That's just the way I'm going to see this, folks. You'll see a lot of hoopla about this, but it's just going to come down to the fact. They're going to say, well, we got to make sure this doesn't happen again. We need to make sure we check this group and that group. Always a little mistake. We thought we had this dossier. That's what it'll come down to. Nothing will happen. Oh, no, Obama just said we want to make sure there's no collusion with a foreign country. Yeah. Yeah, right. There we go. Nothing's going to happen there. Just the News has this good article. I love this article. It says, record number illegal immigrants coming ashore in UK sparks protest and political reform, with Donald Trump warning as well. In just one day last week, 898 illegal aliens, they keep saying illegal migrants, they're illegal aliens, coming across the English Channel. How do they get there, by the way? I wonder. How do they have the food, the water, the resources to make these rafts or whatever the hell they have to get from wherever the hell they're coming from, North Africa, the Middle East, to travel that distance and make it to England, to the English Channel? Yeah, we're brought to the shore in Dover here. The increasing number of migrants crossing the English Channel to try to come to the UK illegally, a 73% increase from 2023, and 898 alone Wednesday by boat. Sparking now protests in the region. Comes days just after President Trump, while in Scotland, warned that the leaders need to get their act together on this matter. Now, this is one of the fronts where Donald Trump is absolutely correct, and he's done a very stellar job on our southern border. We actually have negative net migration of illegal aliens in the country now, thanks to what he's done on the southern border. So the whole Biden shtick, of course, was we need to pass legislation. Folks, did you see Donald Trump pass any legislation at all? Now, he's gotten more money since the big, beautiful bill. But overall, he basically just is enforcing immigration laws that already exist. And he's essentially closed the border down. I've said to you before, he needs to also close immigration for at least the next 10 years. There should be some type of bill. We're not importing anyone else till we can get the American people working again, our citizenry, secure our border. And then in 10 years from now, if we need, not just if people want to come here, if we need immigrants to come to this country, then we can set something up. We can't even absorb the immigrants we already have in many cases. So he's right to say this to the UK. And isn't it nice to see that there's actually a spine in some of these people? Like, this is what I was saying to you earlier. Where are the men? They've had enough, clearly. Look at this. The most recent figures from the UK Interior Ministry, known as the Home Office, show the number of illegal alien channel crossers so far this year to be 25,436. 51% increase compared to this point last year, where they had 16,842. Yeah, there we go. The people have had enough. They're sick of it. They're sick of it. Even Reform Party leader Nigel Farage posted a video of migrants arriving last week in boats and said that the public had had enough. He's absolutely right. Now, this means the same thing we've seen in America. More hotels, more costs, more people who should not be here, and of course the public has had enough. Think how many people we had outside the Roosevelt Hotel, just sitting there, day in and day out, waiting to get in there, using our hotels, kicking out homeless vets out of these hotels, putting them on the streets for the illegal aliens. You never seen anything like this before. Now, UK Prime Minister Keir Starmer recently shared an opinion piece published in The Sun, where he said that the government was taking massive steps to combat illegal immigration, including freezing the assets of gang leaders from other countries in the UK and returning 35,000 people to their home countries. They all need to go, folks. This is what I've been telling you. This is what I've been telling you. You can't have people come into the country illegally and expect it to be some type of positive outcome that results in this. There is a proper channel to come into every country on this planet. You don't just get to come in illegally and think, hey, I got here, I get to stay. I'm not going to assimilate. I'm going to work on the government dole. I'm going to work under the table and expect everything to be great. Oh, and I'm going to send money back to my home country. Yeah. How's that work out? Versus spending it here. In the end, it cost us billions, hundreds of billions of dollars every year to accommodate people here illegally. We cannot sustain this, folks. We cannot sustain this system. It's not working. It's not helping make America better. And it's certainly not putting America first. So I think the UK needs to up their numbers, absolutely. And we really need to up our numbers. 10,000, 15,000 illegals deported a day should be the benchmark for the Trump administration. By the way, these migrants coming in largely are from Nigeria, India, Pakistan, Poland, which I thought is interesting, and China coming into the UK. They need to go back to their home countries, folks. Do you want to have immigration? It should be a quorum in the legislation, and there should be a need for these people, and they should be assimilating. They should be assimilating. There shouldn't be any of this English as a second language. We're going to put you under the government dole. We're going to get housing for you. That's not what should be done. And when you see the government come in and try to, again, put this all together, it just makes these people more dependent on government. That's why 3 out of 4 illegal aliens vote Democrat, because they're taking care of them. Why would they want to cut that off? Yeah. Well, it looks like the UK wants to survive. That's good. I'm glad there's still some men there. It looks like Ireland as well. Yeah, Conor McGregor announcing his bid for the president of Ireland. Talking about tackling the amount of migrants coming into the country and, of course, deporting them as well. Well, it looks like they want to survive, folks. That's. I'm happy to see that. Happy to see that a country wants to survive. That's something I'd like to see. Especially when you have low birth rates like you do in England. Like you do all across Europe. That needs to change, as it does here. It needs to change and change quickly. That's what needs to be done here. All right, let's move on to this next article. I'm sure many of you have seen this already. We only have a couple minutes remaining, but I'm going to try to get to this right now. And that is what's going on with these Democrats in the state of Texas. You know, it's very interesting to me, especially, that you are seeing things like this happening. And what do I mean by that? You actually have Democrats now threatening to leave the state because of a redistricting campaign that's going on there. Again, this is in the Wall Street Journal. It says Texas Democrats leave state to block GOP redistricting, drawing a threat from Governor Greg Abbott. Now, Texas Democrats fled the state now to block a special session called by the governor at Donald Trump's request to redraw congressional maps. Let's stop and think for a second. Now, they just did this redistricting back in 2021, which is supposed to be set for 2022 to 2031. I'm not familiar with the specific laws of Texas. They can just do this whenever they want. I know that should be done every time there's a new consensus. Or census, excuse me. Think about what's happened in Texas recently, though. Since 2021, you saw the unchained, unfettered invasion of Texas. We saw this, I saw this, you saw this. Ad nauseum. The illegal invaders rushing into Texas, staying in Texas, sleeping in people's yards, overflowing these homeless shelters, sleeping on city streets in tents. We have no idea how many people are in Texas right now. Now, do I think this is the reason for calling this? I don't know. But you have Democrats now actively leaving, so they can't hold this quorum, which they need 51 people in order to do. Now, some are trying to fly to places like Chicago. right? Where they're holding news conferences with J.B. Pritzker. I mean, it's so ridiculous. Saying this is not the Democratic Party, or not about the Democratic Party. This is about the democratic process. The largest democracy in the world, and yet a Texas governor will bend the knee to Donald Trump. Why don't they like this, the Democrats? Why do they like this? Why do we have clowns like this one right here?
Ramon Romero, your state representative, and y'all know what's going on right now. This is the fight that we're in. This is the fight that you're in. We didn't start this fight. Donald Trump started it. He asked the Texas legislature to get rid of your voice. So for me, I'm not going to do that. I'm not going to go to work to silence you. And there's going to be a lot of people that's what they're going to say. They ran away. They don't want to go do their job. If my job is taking away your right to have a vote that matters, I'm not going to do it. There's going to be other people that are going to go to the floor. It's not going to be me, and it's not going to be my colleagues, because we know what this means. This is the destruction of America and the destruction of value of our vote. So you see me? Look at here. Bye. I'm out, but I'm here for you.
He's out. He's leaving, but he's there for you. Ridiculousness. Absolute ridiculousness. Now, we don't know how many of these representatives in the state of Texas that are Democrats that have left, but it indicated that it was enough to prevent this quorum from happening. So they're going to New York to see Kathy Hochul, for God's sakes. I don't know why you'd do that. But they're trying to prevent this every step of the way. Now, notice when Joe Biden was flooding the nation, but primarily Texas, and I've explained to you before why they're trying to bring him to Texas. They want to flip Texas purple. They want to flip Texas blue. So what they want to do is, again, flood it with as many illegal aliens as possible. They know, again, as I've said, 3 out of 4 illegal aliens will vote Democrat. They get bigger census. They get more districts. They get more electoral votes. If they flip Texas, they don't have to worry about winning another election ever again. They've already done it in California. They've already done it in New York. Illinois. All the populous states. So now all of a sudden they're acting like this is, it is gerrymandering, but they're opposed to gerrymandering all of a sudden. I want to read you something. This is in a book that I have. I don't have a lot of time, but I'm going to read this to you because it shares a much importance, as if this has never been done before. And this is a book called A Race for Justice, The Passion and Politics of Philip Burton. Who was Philip Burton? He was a congressman in the mid-1960s to the early 80s in California, a Democrat. And here they say, I'm going to read this to you, this is in the book, the Democratic majority, right? Think about how Texas has a Republican majority now. But California had a Democratic majority at the time, in the early 1960s. And they chanced to add 8 new congressional seats in the 1961 reappointment, gave Jess Unruh a perfect opportunity to convert his substantial assets into a bid for speakership. Reapportionment was the process by which the state legislature every 10 years drew new boundaries for the assembly's 80 districts to reflect the population growth. Now, as California grew, which it did substantially until Gavin Newsom, its share of congressional seats also grew at the expense of other states whose population declined or did not grow as quickly. With Pat Brown, that would be the governor, guaranteed to sign this bill. Think about Greg Abbott. He'll obviously sign this bill of this redistricting. The Democrats had their first opportunity in modern times, because up until that point, California was blood red. Modern times create a partisan or gerrymandering plan to maximize their gains. The Republicans had done the same thing to the Democrats following the 1950 census. Now, through redistricting, Unruh drew safe districts for Democrats and Republican incumbents alike in return for commitments to vote for him for Speaker of the Assembly. That's what he wanted. Well, Unruh was redrawing Los Angeles County. Think about that. Our most populous city, right? One showed all the existing boundaries. The second overlay map showed proposed boundaries. Using a pointer and padding around UNRWA said, look, Bobby, speaking to somebody, this is what we're doing to LA. The number of Republican districts UNRWA gutted to make new Democrat ones was impressive. Case in point. This has been done time and time again. When Republicans are in office, they do it. When the Democrats are in office, they do it. It's nothing new. Nothing new. I just don't understand why they're doing it right now in the middle of this session. So I will report back to you once I see the legality issue of this. It doesn't seem like it's illegal. But the fact that the Democrats pretend this is, outrageous or something that's never been done before, I just find that to be extremely humorous. I do. It's absolutely pathetic, if I must say so myself. Folks, thanks for being here with me today, as always. Thank you for sharing the show. I appreciate when you do that. Folks, make sure you keep your house in order. Make sure you store food, water, supplies, medicines, supplements, ammo, whatever you need to be self-sufficient. It's always important when you do that. Folks, make sure you do share the show. We got to get this information out. Stay square with God. Make sure that you are sharing the truth, folks. That's how we save this nation. Folks, I will see you tomorrow on the next Marco Dre Show. Until then, be good, stay busy, and God bless.